Okay, I want you to be able to tell the difference between live resin and rosin. Why are these two things different, and what do I think this means about the future of the cannabis marketplace? Live resin is mostly made from hydrocarbons, so think butane and propane reactions for cannabis. It's going to have a really high yield, and it's going to produce like a honey or a shatter or diamonds. You should be able to tell when you open the package if it's live resin. Now, rosin, on the other hand, is the plant taken through an ice water hash extraction so that you just get those trichome heads. They're sent through different filter bags, and then that material is pressed. That'll look much more like a butter or like even a jammy texture. Now, the flavor profile is difficult to pick up on these differences without a lot of side-by-side comparisons, but the hydrocarbon extraction doesn't necessarily get all of the flavors in the same way that a rosin extract does. That's because all of the flavor compounds that we are interested in a cannabis plant live inside the top of that trichome head. And that's what's being pressed with heat to produce that rosin. It's truly capturing the small piece of the plant that contains all of those volatile aromatic compounds. Now, after it's pressed, that rosin is going to set and kind of mature in its flavor profile. That's going to give you that more authentic rosin flavor. Now, there's something wrong with both of these techniques. Both live resin and rosin capture the plant in how it smells as the flowering is finishing. That ice water hash is capturing the nature of that trichome on the day that it was harvested. And live resin is the same, where the hydrocarbon wash is being done to the plant material relatively recently after its harvest, so that it's capturing that aroma that it has at the moment that it's harvested. This is a historical aberration. The 3,000-year history of cannabis and a lot of the cannabis genetics that built the foundation of what I would call the modern US cannabis economy came from regions like Afghanistan or Northern Africa, where the whole culture of cannabis for thousands of years was the production of hashish. Hashish and rosin have a similar starting point, where your fresh material has those trichomes removed and then pushed together. Even though hashish and rosin both start out with this keef material, when the hashish is produced, it's pressed into these bricks, and then those bricks are aged for sometimes an extremely long period of time. That aging process changes every volatile organic compound in the material. Imagine if I tried to describe wine to you by becoming obsessed with the flavor of grapes. I would miss out on all of the subtleties that are created in the bottling process of wine and in the aging process of that material. That's hash versus rosin. Rosin does a wonderful job of capturing the flavor of that fruit at the point of harvest, but it does not capture what happens with that through a complex aging process. Here's my deepest hope, is that as the cannabis industry ages and matures, that we start exploring some of the changes to flavor and fragrance compounds that happen in the plant material through the hash making process. And I think that not only are we going to unlock a whole new realm of cannabis flavor experiences, but I would imagine that because of the way that the flavor compounds and the cannabinoids interact with each other for changing the psychotropic effect of cannabis, that we're actually unlocking an entirely new therapeutic potential for cannabis that has a slightly different psychotropic effect. My only hope is that that subcategory continues to grow, and as it grows, it pushes more and more people to discover the history of hashish culture, how that's driven cannabis consumption for thousands of years, and how that can become ultimately a part of our modern cannabis culture, so that we're not so dependent on the flavors and fragrances produced by the plant at the point of extraction, but rather we're dealing with the plant through an entire production process and focusing on that finished material that has all of these complex new compounds being introduced to it through the aging and oxidation and time that adds this element of beauty to the finished goods for cannabis that just don't exist in the marketplace today.